Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. This week we're back at it with a new groove and hypnotic techno tutorial. Be sure to grab the project file in the link in the description. Thank you so much for supporting the channel, liking and commenting the video, and here we go. Alright, so we're going to start with the kick. So before we begin, just so you know, there is a masterclass that Chlär has been doing on CDJ, and you can watch it. I saw it quickly and I used some of these techniques. Very interesting, especially if you want to create this kind of style. I think you got all the ingredients to do it after watching those kind of courses. So for this kick, it's very around and I'm using several layers. I'm using a kick, a top kick, a sub layer, and a rumble. What I mainly done is using lots of overdrive and some EQs to get it right. So on each layer, I've been applying those kind of processing, and I'm going to start first with the punch and withdrawing all of this processing on the group. So this is my main kick, punch. So at first it's just a vengeance trancy kick. And I'm gonna apply lots of overdrive. Basically, this kind of overdrive that takes the whole frequency spectrum with full weight on and without any dynamics. So Chlär is using this, and this really brings that raw vibe on the kick and on all the elements, because it kind of tames the high end and it really distorts the mid and the low mids. So already after applying this overdrive, you really get some better punch. I make sure everything is in mono in the bass, and then it's about EQing. So I don't want these mids with some boxiness, and I'm gonna want some very raw punch and subby kind of transient. So that's why I'm boosting those mediums and those low end. I'm gonna apply another overdrive again to tame a bit the high end, and then just another EQ. I think this one I put it after because of the group processing. I added another overdrive, and as usual, when you put lots of distortion in that frequency area, you got lots of resonances, so it's better to cut a bit that part. So this one is the punch, and I wanted to get back some transients, and this time just using a top kick. This is a free one from Raveyard sound. I'm just making sure it's in mono and then just EQing a bit to get it right. So this is my punch. And then for the sub, I'm mixing a rumble and a sub that comes from this hip hop sub bass. So I'm using a snake for the sequencer. I just randomize the notes here in the low notes, pretty much all lows. And for the gate, I'm just withdrawing that first note when the kick is punching. And then it's just randomizing. I get this pattern. I put an overdrive also again. And I recorded this, but I took only the first part, because here it was. So I just took the first bar and then duplicated it, and this was my sub. And on top of that, I have added another reverb, rumble. So I took this audio file from Ableton. This is FX Subverb. This is very good. It's very deep and warm, but I have put down the transient. I've transposed it down. Added an overdrive to get back a bit of grain on the high end, and putting a drum bass to get something very compressed, and a bit of delay to change the rumble to get a bit more movement. Of course, a sidechain heavily, and here the sidechain is done by the fact that I've put the gate here. And so all of this together gives me the kick. And on top of that, I'm again putting an overdrive and lots of EQs to get it right, because I lost a bit of the high end. So I wanted to get it back. But here, really, it's the overdrive that glues together everything and put back also some distortion in the low mids, so it gives that really warm sound. I put this erosion to just have the slight effect, and then I just put some high end back and a bit of mid to get more punch. So I took the time to really boost the right frequencies until I get what I wanted. Be sure to lower the volume when you boost your EQs, so you're doing your gain staging. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this kick. So after that, I have a few Perc loops. These are very slight, but it's just to bring a bit more groove to the kick. So I have this first one. This is just a random Perc that I've transposed down a lot, because it was in the high end. Then overdrive, groove, preset from the delay of Ableton, sidechaining, and then just isolating something in the mids, low mids, to have something narrow and dark. I don't want the higher part in the frequency spectrum. And in terms of pattern, it's just like a random pattern. But I get a lot of groove thanks to this delay. And I did another one with a drum rack. So I took a random kit from Ableton. It's actually a good thing just to take and try different kits and just throwing down some notes, some patterns to get those perks. So here I'm just using that perk. I think I have muted this hi-hat, and then instead of the groove I put an echo on and a room with a reverb, and then same, just a narrow EQ to get only the low mids and the sidechain, and that's pretty much it. So you see it brings some other groove also. After that I have my drums. So for the drums I have several layers. First I have some hi-hats and open hats. So on the group I just have this last EQ and just a sidechain. But in the channels I will use pretty much the same processing each time. So I'm choosing the right hats. Sometimes I try different transpose down. I transpose down or up to try and find the better sound that fits with the track. And here I make sure it's very sharp and short, like this. Then I get some interesting tones. And in the high end, especially with that amp on rogue mode. And then putting an echo. So I'm actually using an echo and then a delay to get some extra groove. I'm using pretty much the same reverb on all those channels, and it's really some bright reverb. So either you can use your favorite reverb with some plate or something very bright, or you can use the Ableton preset of the reverb that's called Hallucination. This one is very effective. So then I have this little pattern, and this pattern is actually playing around with also this open hat. Again, something very sharp. So here, really choose the right hat, transpose it to get the right sound. I have withdrawn the transient because it was a bit too aggressive. Then I put the same amp, boosting a bit and controlling the transient with the drum bass, putting the same reverb, very, very short, and just put some bright room, and then EQing, making sure I add not too much high end, especially at 10K. Usually it's very harsh. And then another open hat that's stack with the other one. This one is more like in the mids. And again, choosing the right sample, making sure I have not too much decay, and same reverb, then EQ. So this is my first stack of drums. Then I bring back a loop. So this one is just a loop, but I use the transient here to only get like sharp drums and to not get all the tail of those drums, and just the same room and some EQs. I have another loop, this one. Very groovy, same processing. And finally just a hi-hat like this. That's very noisy. So I use the tail of an impact. I'm using the vocoder to get that noisy feeling. And then same reverb and some EQ. And finally, I have just a ride. So using again the 99 ride from Ableton with a simple pattern with some velocity movement. Same reverb, just a derez. It's actually very slight. And some echo and sidechain. And I have also a clap. Again, some movement thanks to the velocity. Playing also with the transpose down button for the clap. Same reverb, same kind of echo and sidechain. So you see, very coherent way of getting the same room, same kind of groove, the same delays, echoes and reverb is very important for the style. And then just taking some time to EQ to get some sharp drums, also making sure there's not too much tail. So on all of these drums, I'm playing with the amplitude and the decay here to get the right envelope for my sound. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the drums. All right, so next I have my lead. So for the lead, I'm using the same kind of processing with lots of overdrive, amp, same reverb and groove delay, and some EQs just to withdraw some resonances. And I'm actually using 2 layers. So the first one is my root note. So I think it's a B, and I have also a B in 1 octave lower. And I have a second channel, and this is the same pattern, but I'm using this +1. Here I think it's +6. So I have like a +6 and +5 between the two. And this is my patch in Serum. So it's basically like just a wave with some FM synthesis. So it's a pluck. I have a short envelope that's linked to the filter, and it's doing like a resonancy when it plays. And I have this transient with some noise, compression also to get more transient, and then just some reverb, and that's pretty much it. And so just playing around with those 2 layers, doing some dissonant sound with those chords. Of course, what makes the sound raw is those overdrives. So you see it distorts and it tames down the high end. And yeah, this groove also is important, along with the reverb. And then it's just about EQing to get it right. So for instance, this is the kind of resonancy that you want to cut. That's pretty much it. After that, I have this Atmo that brings some intensity before kind of drop where I withdraw everything, every drums, to get only the lead and the kick. So to do this Atmo, I'm using like a random vocal loop. I put in the sampler with the sustain mode. I've shown you at different times this. So it's 100% reverb with a huge decay. A bit of movement also, the delay, and also to only keep the low end. Then it's lots of EQing because I had some resonances. So for instance, this one, it's pretty harsh. This one, because I don't want too much noise. Here it's just getting it right with the rest of the mix. I'm just bringing up the filter, building the tension, and along with the other effects, it's building this. So I have this effect, doing like a vocal reverse. And to do that, I'm using the autopan with the rate, 1/16th rate, the phase to 0, and you'll get this kind of stutter effect with a full-on reverb. And I have another effect. Here it's just a kind of perc, again with some long reverb. And I'm using this as a leitmotif in my track. So it's kind of telling each 8 bars a new section of the track. So this is the main ID and elements, and then in the background, of course, I have lots of effects. So I'm using different techniques to make those effects. So either you can use the granulator with some chords, some weird dissonant chords. So with the +6 and the +5, get something dissonant. You can also create the chords directly in the MIDI pattern, and then just took like a sound random effect. You can try different parts of that sample, different lengths of the grain, and you can try to get different sounds. So here you can choose also the length of the grain played, and this one here I've used this plate reverb, again some overdrive and the groove effect. And so I'm creating those kind of different effects. So this one is just the same, but it's a different sample. So you can get those weird sound with the granulator, but you can also get it with some grain delay. So this time I took like this sample. It's a kind of Atmo, but you create some weird textures thanks to the grain delay. So you can put 2, 3, maybe 4 or 5. You can get even crazier sound. If you want to try different. So grain delay is a great tool, and then just sidechaining. This one is another granulator with a different effects. I've actually combined the granulator and the grain delay, and you get instantly some weird sound. Playing also with the octave to get different sound at different time of the track, and then also some other weird effects. So using an effect sample and again some grain delay, I can transpose down to get different sounds, and I can make also move the frequency here or the pitch along with the track. Again, putting lots of grain delays, so really you can put like as much as you want and you will get some weird sound, and the same reverber room. And this time here, using an effect sample, grain delay, and or I have some fractal shaper. And finally just a few effects, impact sweeps to make the drop even more effective here. And that's pretty much it for this track. The main processing is some overdrive to get the raw sound, lots of bright reverb, some delays, some groove delay presets from Ableton, and then making some weird sound with some sequencer and some dissonant chords. And finally, just putting some effects in the background, and you can create lots of them with the granulator or with the grain delay. So these are the main elements to take from this tutorial. I hope you liked it. Thank you so much for the support, and I see you in the next one. Ciao, guys.